All right, so you found your surface, you know how far you can squat. We're gonna see if we can increase the range by mobilizing the spine a little bit more and asking a little bit from our core muscles. So first thing we're gonna do is just lay down on our backs again. So I did that too soon, there. So lay down on your backs. We already did the floor cog, so I want you to just think about that lower part of it when you were pressing your low back to the ground. And I want you to imagine as you're doing it that your spine, the lumbar spine, your low back spine, is actually pressing down to the floor one vertebrae at a time. So as you tip your pelvis back, just like we did in the cogs, you're really thinking of those individual vertebrae, but you're going to use a little bit of exhale and think of as your core muscles as if they are pressing down from the top to get that vertebrae to the floor. And then the next one, take a breath, we'll stay in this position. The next vertebrae, pressing down toward the floor. And then the next one, take a breath. And maybe all the way up to the belly button, the next vertebrae. Okay, so we're just using the breathing a little bit, and then you'll just untuck again and do it again. Inhale, the lowest part of your spine, it's even kind of really right around your sacrum that I'm doing right now, and you're going to press, and you can use your finger as a cue, press it on your, put it on your lower belly, and exhale. Take a breath, move your finger up, exhale. Think of those muscles pressing down toward the floor. One more breath. Exhale. Okay, so hopefully you felt some of those muscles kicking in order to get that lumbar spine going into flexion. We're going to actually do that in a partial rolling like a ball exercise. So you can put something back behind you if you need it here. So I'm going to put it there just so that you can see what it would be like if I do have a prop back there. So I'm going to hold on to my legs from underneath, and I'm going to think of doing the same exact thing. So I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to think of the lowest part of my spine, exhaling, pressing through toward the floor. And then I'm going to take another breath. Exhaling, pressing through toward the floor. Inhale. Exhale, pressing through toward the floor until I get to this item that I'm not quite there yet. Inhale. Exhale, pressing through. And now I've landed on my stuff. And then I'm going to come up from that. Inhale. And I'm trying to come up in the same order. So my upper vertebrae are coming up first. I'm trying to keep my lower ones down toward the ground. Inhaling, exhaling. Really thinking about pressing that belly down toward the floor as I come up. Okay. We're not doing this as if we're doing sit-ups, and we're not going to do 50 or anything like that. You're just trying to see if you can breathe, flex your lumbars, and feel that the core has something to do with that. You can take it further and not have anything back here and really slowly work your way down. What you want to avoid, and so your feet will end up having to come up off the floor if you do it that way. I want you to avoid speed, and I want you to avoid having more than avoid having a group of vertebrae move at the same time. So if I was just going to go back and move them all kind of as a chunk, I would just lay back, right? And then same, coming up, I would come up and just be like, ugh, the whole thing, right? And I didn't really do any extra flexion of my lumbar spine. So you're going to go really, really slowly and think of one vertebrae getting to the floor at a time. So my feet are off the floor now. So this is where my body just wants to drop back, but I'm breathing and slowly laying those vertebrae down. Again, the way up is harder, okay? So as I come up, I'm gonna really try to keep those lower vertebrae down as if I could keep them on the ground. Inhaling, bringing the top of my spine up, and keeping coming, and keeping coming. I'm thinking of the belly going down toward the floor. Okay, so on the way up, usually pretty close to the top, there is a spot where your body's going to want to go to some big old muscles that it's used to using. A lot of the time we use our low back muscles, or we use the outer abdominals. So when you get somewhere up here where it starts to feel really challenging, I encourage you to breathe instead of this. I'm going to do that popping motion. So I'll come up where I tend to get stuck, and this is what my body would want to do. Boing. Yeah, kind of boing forward. That's where if you can't do it really slowly and without the spine just, chunking forward or chunking back, that's where you want to use the props instead, so that you can just work on the amount that you can go down and come up first and build your strength and build just the mechanics of the spine even being able to do that. It may not even be about strength so much as it is about the fact that you may have not ever flexed your lumbar spine, or at least not for a really long time. So that's what the props are for. You could also use a little fitness ball. You could just use a couple of pillows, right? That would totally work. Have them here, moving back, and you're just only going this far. And the pillows are still squishing. I'm still gonna be working some of my core muscles here for sure. You're just avoiding that popping up. Okay, keep it down. Slow, 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 slow. Okay? At the bottom of your squat, if you get pretty low, there is a little aspect of that rolling like a ball. So there is some core strength that's needed to keep that control. Remember that spot where you get to in your squat, where you plop, or where you need momentum. Instead, if you can access your breath, some core strength, and just a little more mobility in the lower spine is really what it's about, you won't have the plop as far down. So next one is the thoracic spine. So we're going to use a half dome or a pillow or a rolled up yoga mat, anything you got. I'm going to use a half dome. We're just going to mobilize the thoracic spine a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to put it right down, right around your shoulder blades. Legs out long, head in the hands. And all you're doing here is keeping the back of the neck long. We've done this one before too. It's just thoracic mobilization. Keeping the back of the neck long. Remember, you're not folding it, you're lengthening it. And you're going back over the half dome and forward and back and forward. So both of these moves are about mobilizing the spine. The rolling like a ball is a little more about mobilizing the lumbar spine. This one is a little bit more about mobilizing the upper spine, because you'll find if your spine is more mobile as you're squatting down and up, it's a lot easier to move it than if you've got all your vertebrae kind of stuck together and only moving in one spot. And that's where you get that into trouble as far as, oh, it hurt, my low back always hurts when I garden. That has to do a lot of the time with the spine not being mobile enough. Similarly, knee pain sometimes can be because you aren't able to move your spine when you come up and down, and so you end up moving the knees too much or sacrificing the knees too much. So then you're going to scooch down a little bit more. Mobilize up here again. We're not being too particular other than keeping length in the back of the neck. You're going down and up. You can go to the side a little bit. Yeah, and then we'll do one more spot. So scooch down just a little bit further until you're right The half dome's right at the top of the shoulders. So just keep working that spot. I'm just going to show you how you could also use a pillow or something different if you don't have a half dome. Foam roller would work too, you just wouldn't go as far back. But really, you could just roll up a pillow and stick that under there and still get some mobility in that upper spine. It may not be like pressing in as much, it may not be as extreme or as intense, but you may not want it to be as intense either. We're just going for a little bit of motion, and that's it. Okay, so back to your height that you are now squatting to after the last video. And you're gonna see if that, those little bit of mobilizations helped at all. So as you go down, so your feet are a little wider than hips distance, you're gonna plant your feet, bend your knees. Remember, you're reaching for whatever it is you're squatting onto with your butt. You're gonna have your arms forward. Now, as you go down, I want you to actually, and again, you know how far you're squatting. You're not necessarily squatting this far, okay? As you get down to that place where you're like, oh, this is where I plunk, okay? This is where I plunk. You're gonna take a breath and give yourself a little bit of an exhale and see if that can slow you down. So right here, I'm almost to the ground, but I'm not. I'm gonna take a breath, and then I'm gonna go, right? And I just thought a little bit about that rolling like a ball feeling. We're just faking it, right? You're not gonna obviously be doing this if you were trying to get down somewhere really quickly. And then same on the way up. I'm gonna reach my arms out. I'm still gonna push into my feet. I'm gonna take a breath. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Yes. And then back up. Okay. So just see if when you play around with your squatting, mobilizing the spine and then just a little bit of purposeful breathing can help you keep it out of your back, keep it out of your knees. And we'll add a little bit of side and rotation movement in the next video.